It's the Glenn Goss Show, conversations about real estate and life. Be sure to subscribe or follow the show. You never know, the next show might help you in your business or your life. Enjoy the show.
Starting to do this thing on Thursdays. I know today's Friday. Today's Friday, the 22nd of July. It's actually my son's birthday tomorrow. So
Nice.
Shout out Joel, turning 5. And yeah, no, it's been good. Thursdays are for gratitude. Every day's for gratitude, but Thursdays are being thankful. So thankful Thursdays. And yeah, yesterday I posted a video, just a short video, like, hey, I wanted to give a shout out to my garbage guy because it's been freaking hot. And in Kennewick, I live in Kennewick, the recycling is in small bins, so they have to physically get out of the truck, toss whatever's in there into the truck, and then get, so there's a lot of movement involved. Obviously, those guys look a little fitter than your average garbage truck driver, but nonetheless, not a fun job.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that I don't have to do that. So big shout out to Waste Management.
So you're doing that as a Thursday kind of ritual going forward?
Yeah, exactly.
And do you log it anywhere? Is it just a mindset thing, or how are you going about it?
So I read in Atomic Habits, right? It's little, small, incremental things. And at some point, I really do hope that it snowballs into something that is like, hey, on Thursdays, we're being thankful Thursday, and we're out just buying everyone in line a coffee at Starbucks. Or hey, I'm thankful for the food industry or the food service people, and we're going to take care of everybody's gratuity in the restaurant at this moment. Like something like that. Mm-hmm. That I think is really cool. I know a friend of mine, they do this, what is called a $100 dinner club. And so they tip, whatever their bill is, they tip the service staff $100. And it's usually, 10 to 15 or 20 people at a table.
Sure.
So that adds up. And so it's kind of a game changer, and it's pretty cool. It's a great idea. I'm a giver, I love giving.
Yeah. I like the idea of journaling to gratitudes. So that's something I started, and I don't, it's probably contrary to what some people recommend, but I'm doing it just as a document that I have in my Google Docs, but just keeping track of things I'm grateful for. It's a great way to start out the day.
I agree.
And I'd be lying if I said I did it every single day, but I have it on my to-do list every day. And some days it's a fire drill when you wake up.
Yeah.
But on the days I get on my computer, look at my to-do list, that's one of the first things to do. So I'm still kind of building the habit, but it does set your tone for the rest of the day.
I agree.
Okay, I'm thankful for these things, even if it's the littlest thing. And I learned this trick from somebody else, but you can if you're putting your gratitudes down about people, that makes for a great Christmas card or birthday card or whatever, because you likely have these people in your life that you're thankful for over and over again. And if it's nearing their birthday, you kind of add all those things up and put it together in a birthday card, and that is phenomenal rather than just a happy birthday.
That's true. I haven't seen a card, not that people aren't thoughtful anymore or they're just inconsiderate. That's not the case. I mean, they got me the card, happy birthday or congratulations or whatever. Typically nowadays, there's a message in there and they just sign their name.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. The message inside of that card was the thought that counts, right? It's like, oh, there was a wonderful message. It pertained to whatever it is, and signed so-and-so.
Yeah.
It's like, great. I am now only buying cards that are blank on the inside.
Same.
So you can write a thoughtful, sincere message inside of that thing. For me, like a lot of people, they just take the card and, all right, hey, it's a little light. What's up with this birthday card? It's a little light. And they toss it, whatever. But for me, as a kid growing up, there had always been thoughtful messages from my mom or my dad or whoever that had written me the card, and I still have some of these cards. And so that is something that it's almost like a legacy that I want to leave behind, is like, dude, Leo, he was the worst realtor, but he gave us the greatest cards, right?
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I don't think people are saying you're the worst realtor, but I get what you're saying. I mean, just having that impact and putting the personal touch on things. We've talked about that on this podcast a few times on how big a personal touch is and how that has more impact than just doing things in bulk or, just because type stuff. It's a little more intentional.
I agree. We ended up talking about this earlier this week as well, about just being grateful and being thoughtful and just sending a message to somebody, anybody that's in your life, whether that's your landscaper, your accountant, your physician, your barber. Who do you go to? What is this?
Well,
do you have a hair guy?
I do not have a hair guy.
You don't have a hair guy.
I have a beard guy.
You have
though.
a beard guy. Okay.
Yeah, I got to get it cleaned up every now and then.
Okay.
Because I can try to do it at home, but it doesn't quite look the same as if you get someone that knows what they're doing.
Hey, I heard the saying a while ago, I can make a mean burger, but it doesn't mean I should open up a McDonald's.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I go to a guy named Peter Solano over in Pasco.
Nice.
He does a phenomenal job.
Love it.
So me and my son both go to him.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I like that. Catching people doing good things and letting them know. Because there's a lot of people out there that do a lot of good and get no reward for it.
Right.
So whether it's monetary or even just the little note saying, hey, appreciate you for XYZ.
Yeah. Love it.
So back to you being the worst realtor.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But back to you being a realtor. We were talking earlier this week about when you got started in the business.
That's right.
And the conversation, I asked you how long it was before you closed a sale in the business. What was that?
So it's an awesome question, and I love the story because sometimes for others, it happens right away. Like they get their license and then they tell their friends and family, like they're super excited. They're not being a secret agent, right? They're just telling everybody, hey, I just got my license, because it's true. It's exciting. You get to go and look at houses. How cool of a job is that? It's one of the best jobs out there. So you tell your friends and family right away, hey, I just got my real estate license. Who wants to go shopping for a house? Sometimes someone right away is like, hey, Glenn, I'm in the house hunt right now. Let's go look at a couple houses. And then you sell something in the first week. First day, I've never met anyone that was like, hey, the first day I was licensed, I sold a house. I've never met that person, but I'm sure they're out there.
Sure. Or maybe they let people know they were taking the class or whatever, and then as soon as they get licensed, now they're ready to go type
Happened to be on a Friday when the house went on the market, and it was like, hey, we got your house at $20,000 over asking.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Smoking deal. Yep. So back to my story, basically, I got my license. I was working full time. And that was one thing that I didn't, what I wanted to do, Glenn, was I did not want to screw this up. I loved the fact that I can run my own business. I can set my own schedule. I can, whatever I put into it. This is probably the most important. Whatever I put into it is what I'm going to get out of it. And that's been like my work ethic forever. Any job I've ever had, it's like, look, you can show up to this place with these miserable people, but if you got a smile on your face, smiles sometimes are contagious.
Yeah.
And so, you're not going to switch the whole dynamic or the culture one person. I mean, it takes a village, right? However, I was of the mindset, okay, I don't want to screw this up. I want to be in this industry for a long, long time. Whether that's passively or actively. I want to be in real estate. I know that I love real estate. And I had a full-time job. I was working for the railroad, and I was like, I've lost my flame. I've lost my passion for it. I loved working with the people that I worked with. I've actually sold a few of them homes.
How about that?
Or helped them sell homes. So it's very near and dear to me, like to help people in the trades or, of any working class, blue collar, right? Because that's what I came from.
Sure.
And so I knew that I didn't want to screw this up. I didn't want to, how do I put it? I've never been the type of person that has left something and then like tail between your legs kind of came back like, hey, can I have my job back? Like I've never done that before. I've always kind of left one thing because I made my mind up. I'm not going back. Like I left for a reason. I'm going here now. This is my thing now. Mm-hmm. And so when I decided, I was like, okay, I still have a full-time job. My wife just had our second son. It's August. I know that by March, I want to be like doing whatever the new thing is. And that happened to be real estate, right? I looked at what's gonna generate the most freedom with unlimited potential for income, right? And unlimited freedom is what I like to call it, because some people might say, "Oh, hold on, that's a little different philosophy," and I agree, it is a little different. It's just my philosophy. The more money you have, the more freedom you have, right? Money's not the most important thing, but it is very important because, as you remember, just a couple short years ago, which felt like yesterday, there's no toilet paper on the shelves.
Right.
There's no canned goods on the shelves. So you're like, crap, what do I do? Well, you hitch up and you go to somewhere else that happens to have limited supply of that, and you're paying a premium. But if you didn't have the money to do that, you're really screwed. So we need the money. And that's a terrible example. But other examples are like, hey, you fall on some hard times, you get cancer, because cancer is pretty common nowadays. What do? Well, good thing we have this nest egg, or good thing we have this rainy day fund. Good thing we're doing well. We have money to offset that income you're no longer making because you're sick in the hospital, and we're going to get through it. We're going to figure it out. Medical bills pile up like nothing, right? It's just like super fast. My wife works in the hospital, so she's like, oh my gosh, we have this patient, and I hear their story, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's terrible. I think sad deal.
I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, money's not the most important thing, but it's somewhere up there with oxygen on the gotta have it scale.
It's true. It is true. And I'm glad you brought Zig Ziglar up, because that was another catalyst for me to go, okay, I need to do this sales thing. What is it? I don't know. Insurance, life insurance, fiduciary, whatever, real estate agent.
Something where the harder you work, the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it.
Your rewards will be in exact proportion to your service. I read that from Earl Nightingale. Shout out Earl Nightingale. Rest in peace. But he had said the rewards that you get in life are in direct proportion to your service. So one of the beautiful things about Zig Ziglar was that he said, so long as you help other people get what they want, eventually you'll get what you want.
Yeah.
So eventually I'll get my freedom. I mean, I can see it, right? I have a plan. I made the plan, like, okay, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 15-year plan. And so I had decided when I got my license that I was going to leave the railroad. I didn't tell anybody. The writing may or may not have been on the wall. I mean, I was kind of
as far as people that at work,
my coworkers
and stuff, yeah.
And so my wife knew right away, like, yes, I'd love for you to spend more time at home. And, in order for you to really financially get ahead in the trades and things like that, you've either got to put in a ton of overtime, which you're not going to be with your family, or you're going to have to scale into management and work your way up the ladder into upper management, things like that, which, again, requires a lot of energy and time to be there.
Sure, and it's not something you have complete control over either.
Correct.
I mean, there's a little bit of luck involved and timing and all that, whereas real estate is very much an industry that wherever you are, whatever stage of life you're at, if you want to put some hustle into it, then you can start making money, start having an impact, start getting, like we said, getting something out of it.
100%. And so...
But, sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Just to retract, so you do this, how long between when you make that decision to where you are actually seeing the fruits of your labor?
So I got licensed in October because I had made the decision. I got an online training program, and I got picked up by a firm. I was neighbors with a broker, with a designated broker and the owner, and they brought me on. And they were like, hey, you can study here. We want to create an environment for you that's nice and cozy, that you can learn from the other agents here. And so because my wife was on maternity leave and I took some time off from work to stay at home with my family, which was rare, right?
Yeah.
At that time, I was like, I need to hammer this thing out, because if I start getting back into the hamster wheel of work, I'm never going to finish this. So I was dedicated. I needed to do that. So that took me about 12 weeks to get the online training stuff done, even though it's only 90 hours online. I'm a bit of an analytical person. I have to read this stuff and go, okay, I need to make sure that I understand this thing. it's not as easy as it seems. By the way, some transactions in real estate are so simple that you're like, wow, that was easy. I love my job. And then other times you're going, what did I sign up for? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Should I be doing this kind of a thing? Because there's a lot involved, which I love. That's a challenge, and I love that because at the end of the day, they go, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for helping us out. I know this was kind of a mess, but you're like, this is what we do.
Right.
This is who we are. That's why we do it."
Yep.
Love that. 12 weeks, do the online training. I take my test, and I get licensed on October the 23rd. October the 23rd rolls around, and I start going in the mornings. I was working the swing shift, which was 3 to 11, where I was my last job.
So swing shift at a railroad.
Swing shift at the railroad.
Okay.
Shift work. You're working on concrete. I was in metal fab, so I'm grinding, I'm torching, I'm welding, swinging sledgehammers. I'm telling you, I was in freaking phenomenal shape when I was working for the railroad.
I bet.
At all times. Because before that, I was traveling for work, and I was climbing poles, and I was digging ditches and things like that. So I was very physically fit because I was always working. I was active, moving around. So I did the railroad for just over 8 years in total, but here locally, I did that for about 3, going on 3. Now, get my license, and I start going to the real estate office in the mornings. I picked up a client from a referral from telling all my friends and family that I was super excited that I got my license, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, how cool would it be if I got a deal right away?
Right.
Well, 30 days roll by. Somebody calls me and says, hey, I want to buy that house right there. I love that house. I've already seen it in an open. I know you're a realtor. We want to help. We want to help you. So that's another key takeaway here. I hope whoever's listening or watching, if you tell people, hey, I need some help looking for clients or whatever, people are really willing to help you out if you ask.
Sure.
That's something that I've learned the hard way, where I'm, kind of stubborn. I go, gosh, I don't need it. I don't need to ask anyone for help. I need to figure this out on my own. You would be surprised, Glenn, how many people are actually willing to help you out.
Sure. Especially if you ask.
But I
don't need to be timid about it or anything. Like, hey, I could use your help with this.
Exactly.
Yep.
I wasn't asking for help. I wasn't screaming from the rooftops, but that rung, it's in the back of my mind still. It rung clear. We want to help you out. I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. So 30 days go in. Write the contract up. We get the offer accepted. We move to the inspection. There was some items that the buyer and seller couldn't agree to, and the deal fell apart. And then I didn't get any more transactions until 6 months. 6 months later, same clients. I had finally sold them a home.
Okay. And you're still working full-time for the railroad
Correct.
at that point? Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
My very first one was 6 months later, and I was like, hey, I wrote this date down in March that I was just like, come hell or high water, I'm burning the ships. I'm not looking back. Well, COVID happens, and then I'm working more like at my day job, which is really afternoon job.
Right.
And I'm just like spinning my wheels. I couldn't focus. I was like, man, I know that if I focus on this other thing, I know it'll grow. I know it'll take off. And luckily, I have a really strong work ethic that I'm very, very proud of. And I just didn't give up. I was like, I need to make this work. The way it panned out, Glenn, was that I was basically preparing those 6 months and honing in that I am an expert. I studied the market every single day. I was previewing houses that I didn't have a client to show.
Sure.
I was just going into houses. I was learning different features of homes, learning layouts of homes, learning layouts of neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, these are laid out specifically for this reason. Like, these homes sell quicker. Why? Oh, well, they have a more family-oriented layout, and they happen to be within stone throwing distance of this park. Got it. That's why they sell faster, or that's why they're not on the market that long, or whatever. So learning trends, learning the market, learning about economics. I mean, I'm telling you, I used to swing a hammer for a living. Like, I didn't watch the news. Like, I was always focused on my job.
Yeah.
Hard
So this
work.
is a brand new,
Completely new, different.
everything.
I've never done a sales job. And I'm like, what do I do? How do I talk to these people? I'm just going to, I'm just going to do this. What do I say? Well, how do I say it? When do I say it? Like,
yeah.
a lot of it was a little bit trial and error, unfortunately, like a lot of people in the industry and sales in general. But once we got some guidance involved, and all right,
Yep.
got it. This makes more sense.
Yeah, and I don't care who you are. I mean, you can learn all the sales stuff when you actually get in front of people. I mean, a lot of people, anyways, climb up, forget their name, get nervous, trip on themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is even if it's not trial and error, even if you have a system that you're supposed to follow or can follow, you're going to trip. I mean, and you have to accept that. You have to be willing to go out there and fail and lose a listing appointment and have some losses out there in the beginning. If you're not having, or even throughout your career, if you're not having losses, you're not having wins. There's nobody that has a perfect winning record in any aspect of life. I don't care if you're the best sports team or the best business person or best realtor. There are losses out there.
Yeah.
So in your first 6 months, at any point you're making no sales, no closings, any discouragement start to set in at any point there?
Zero money, right? We talked about money earlier. There was zero money coming in from real estate, and I was still working my full-time job, which, again, there was money coming in from that. However, I had hyped myself up. I had hyped up my family about it, and I'd hyped up my wife, and I was like, hey, I'm going to make this work. I don't care what happens. And so within those 6 months, I was feeling really discouraged. I was feeling discouraged at November, December, January, February, March, April. So it was right around February, March when they started shutting down the country. And I was like, should I be doing this? I haven't closed a single transaction. Is this what I'm really supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
What the hell am I doing? And I had already mentally checked out of my old career going, well, I'm not going back there.
Sure.
Like, what do I do? Do I just tough it out? And so my wife and I had a really difficult conversation, and she had said, hey, I know you said March you're leaving, but
here we are.
It's March, and you haven't sold anything. Like, bless her heart. She was trying to be as supportive as possible, but she was being very realistic. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right. I mean, at the end of the day,
we have a young family.
Right.
Do you know what you're walking away from? She didn't say it that way, but that's how I was interpreting it. And I'm like, fuck, she's right.
That's a secure job, benefits, I'm sure, some sort of stability.
It is, I'll say it this way, it is super difficult to get fired there. But people do get fired. So there's no such thing as security, in my opinion. There is no such thing as security. Security lies in here, within you.
Yep.
That's all it is. You got to really want to get fired from somewhere like that.
Sure.
Because they're always willing to give you a second chance. Do you know how much money we put into you, Glenn, to get you trained up on safety and your craft and continuing your education and maybe going into management, whatever, like leadership training, all of these things. They don't want to just let you go. You are an asset to them, believe it or not. Even though they may not treat you at a certain time like an asset, you are a valuable asset to them. So they don't want to just get rid of you.
Sure.
It's a tough process to get in.
Yeah.
And they're like, God.
And then once you're there, there's some level of security because of that. And you have I'm going to clock in, clock out. I know however you got paid each week or bi-weekly or however, you know that there's going to be a paycheck there every single time.
Every time.
Whereas you come into an industry like this and it's not that. I don't care how good you are when you're starting out. It's never going to be this straight line of income of, hey, I closed one sale this month and another the next month and another the next month. It's okay. Maybe, I mean, like you said, you're 6 months kind of going, oh crap. And then all of a sudden you're back up. So once you do get in and you close your first sale, what happens after that?
So I closed my first sale, and we're talking closing, not like accepted an offer, and that because for all intents and purposes, by Washington State, sold is getting a house under contract. Closings, that's a little different. That's when you hand the keys over, right? So I had closed that sale in April, and which is funny. I think it was April Fool's. It was April the 1st, and I was like, "Jeez, nice,
yeah."
Right. So that was kind of funny and ironic, and I'd showed my wife the check, like, hey, honey, look. And she was like, congratulations. Like, I'm really happy for you. And at that time, I'd already had a few other folks under contract. I had met folks at open houses, even though we weren't hosting open houses. We were hosting like
by appointment
only walkthroughs, guided walkthroughs, if you will.
Sure.
It was very gray.
Only one family at a time.
6 foot distance.
Yeah.
I'm wearing gloves and booties on my shoes, and it was weird.
Yeah.
It was very strange. I mean, nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew where we were going in terms of the lockdowns.
Sure. Yeah. What's the world going to look like? What's the economy going to do?
Yeah.
What are real estate values going to do? People had all these questions.
Tons of questions. And the good news was that we were still able to help people even in the midst of the pandemic. Like that first transaction I had closed, we'd shut the country down in March, and I'm like, oh, what if we can't sell real estate anymore? What if I don't get paid from this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's going to happen to this transaction? Who's going to take over it? Like, there was all these things running through my mind. Luckily, things panned out the way they panned out. It was like, let's just be very safe. Let's be diligent. Let's use some common sense. Let's just spread out. Wear your gloves, sanitizer, the mask, the whatever, face shields, all these things. There was a lot of stuff in place that allowed us, thankfully, to continue running our businesses. So, gratitude, here we are. Like, I wouldn't be here if people weren't cautious about doing this real estate thing in Washington.
Sure. And really, I mean, there's this global pandemic going on and uncertainty and people not knowing quite how to react or what the best mitigation strategies are and all this. And here in Washington, it was shut it down. We're going to try to shut down as much as possible type thing, which whatever. I mean, we could go into an hour on whether that was a good idea or not. Or
that's another podcast.
This, that, and the other thing. But the reality was that there was still a need for people to have housing and to be able to buy and sell properties, homes, and we found a way to do it. The industry found a way to do it. The consumer found a way to do it because there was still that need there. So, and that's probably one of the most uncertain times. Like right now we have this stuff, we have uncertainty in the economy and uncertainty on what, is there going to be a recession? What's going to happen to housing values, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
There's uncertainty, but there's still going to be a need for housing. People are still going to have life events where they need to buy, sell a home, just as it was in 2020. There's all this uncertainty, but somehow we find a way to get through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're 6 months in now. You have or a little over 6 months. You're having closings. You have a few more under contract. How long from that point going forward were you able to just jump in? Just jump into the water and swim.
Good question. So I waited actually until June of 2020 to jump ship. Now this is even more crazy than it was prior to the pandemic when I told my wife, hey, I want to do this totally new thing. Imagine sitting your spouse down, Glenn, and just going like this. All right, honey, we're going to go on this adventure. I know we have a young family. I know you just gave birth to one of those kids, but I'm going to quit everything our marriage has ever known. And I'm going to go do this thing that I don't know if it's going to work out or not.
Sure.
And that is just a deep conversation on its own. Then you're like, okay, fine. We've had a meeting of the minds and we're going to move forward with this decision. I support you. Then a global pandemic rolls up and is like, hey guys, here I am.
Yeah.
Now you're like, this is a whole different curveball that no one was expecting, especially the agreement my wife and I had, which was, okay, I'm going to transition out of this thing and go full-time into real estate. June rolls around and I was like, I can't take it anymore. I can't do my day job and do real estate because my business is now suffering. Like I'm growing my pipeline. I'm growing my database. I'm talking to more and more people. More and more people want my help. And lo and behold, a majority of people still work 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And so after 5, I'm at work. I can't help those people. I'm just on the phone. There's grinders going and people swinging hammers and banging and loud noises. And I'm like, hey, let me give you a call back on my break, which would be like 8 o'clock at night. And they're like, can I look at this house or not? Like, where? Yeah, it'll be tomorrow. Can you do it in the morning? No, I only have time during, after I get off of work.
Yeah.
So it's not easy, right? So I finally told my wife, hey, I love you. I need to do this. Like, I have to do this. Luckily, she was like, okay, I support you. The money I had broke even, if you will, even though I was setting money aside for taxes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I had broke even, and I was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. I'm gonna wake up when my wife wakes up. I'm gonna spend time with my kids when my wife is home, spending time with our kids. We're gonna be together again. Like, that was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And then, and yeah, it kind of snowballed from there. But I had a thought pop in about the plan, right? Because I'd said, hey, I don't want to screw this up. I want to make sure that I do it right because I'm not going back. I had done all the research, not all of it. I'd done a majority of the research. I'd read a ton of books. I'd learned about business, and I'd learned about what the successful realtors are doing, what their hiccups were. So I was doing a lot of that research, and I knew, okay, I want to scale this thing to at some point be a legitimate business, which it's always been a legitimate business. Some people just don't treat it like a legitimate business.
Right. I mean, you want it to be a legitimate thing for you.
100%. I wanted an LLC. It's my company is going to pay me. I'm its employee, and maybe I'll hire an assistant, which we'll get into later. Or maybe I want to bring in a buyer's agent. Maybe I want to bring in a showing agent. Maybe I want to bring some staff in, an admin or whatever. Just build this team. And I knew that I needed certain things in order. Like, I need to do these things in order for that to happen. Otherwise, if I get there and I don't have all this stuff prepared, I'm going to be really hurting. So I started like building my business from day one with the intent to have a team at year whatever, 5 or 6 or 8 or whatever, and year 10 just kind of like be the fun person that I love being and helping people, but I have support staff behind me.
So you have a vision going forward.
100%.
And you had a vision from day one of, hey, I'm setting a goal by this date. I want this done. And that didn't quite happen.
Correct.
But you stuck with it.
Right.
So I think a lot of people that start off, if they don't get that first sale within the first 6 months, discouragement really starts to set in.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, why am I really here? What am I doing? And they start to fall off after that. But really, I mean, everything you were doing for those 6 months, trying to learn everything you could do about the business and all processes and continuing to set goals, all those different things. Mm-hmm. If you weren't doing those for those 6 months, is there any way that you would have been able to go forward and continue with how you've been successful?
I would say probably not. And the reason why I say probably not, it was because you can only wing it for so long. You're going to hit your cap or your limit, your ceiling, your proverbial ceiling, if you're just winging it. And that's what I was doing at first. Like, I did have this plan, but when I'm talking about winging it, I didn't know how to listen to people. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how to listen to their needs and help them with those needs and have empathy and have great eye contact. And like, I'm just being a friend to all these people, and then I wouldn't be writing some of their things down, major concerns, and I'm showing them homes, and they're going, hey, dude, we told you we did not want a pool. Why are we here?
Right.
Hey, we told you we wanted a master room or a primary bedroom on the main floor. This doesn't have that. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you learned to fine tune.
I tuned finally. I tuned finally because I'm very receptive to instant feedback like that. I'm going, oh crap, because I don't like making mistakes. We all make mistakes, though, and so that's another great little pro tip for people getting into the industry is that, hey, you're gonna mess up. I messed up a ton.
Sure.
I still make mistakes, but I own up to them quickly and go, hey, you know what? We're going to make sure that doesn't happen again. Here's the process that we're going to do in order to avoid that. And that's just kind of leadership, right? Mm-hmm. But ultimately, if you don't want to learn about leadership, you may not have as fulfilling of a career in real estate that you could have,
Sure.
in my opinion. Because we're guiding and leading people to their future home, their dream home, their vacation home. I just sold an investment property to somebody, and they asked me straight up, would you, obviously not the one that we sold them, but a different one. Would you buy this one? I go, me personally, no. Here's my reasons why. Mm-hmm. And they go, wow. And they valued that because I'm an expert, right?
Sure.
I'm an investor myself. I know what I'm looking for. I don't know what's best for them. And I told them these are the reasons why I wouldn't purchase this property. However, there's something else on the market that I think might work better for you guys. Price point, it's a little different. It's a little different neighborhood. But it's what you guys are looking for. Let's go take a look. And we ended up selling them that property.
Yeah.
And they're extremely happy.
That's so much of what this business is too, is not making a sale.
Correct.
I mean, it is to be there for us to be there as experts to help guide people and make educated decisions for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were talking about the pandemic earlier. Mm-hmm. I had a friend that I knew from high school that came to me during the pandemic, right when it started, saying, hey, thinking about moving to Tri-Cities, Washington, understand you're a realtor there. And I grew up in California.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Hey, just saw my Facebook post and whatnot and said, hey, could you help me and my family find a home here? Yeah, sure. So we kind of went through the process, saw a few homes or whatever. And then he came to a point where it was kind of like, crap, should I really buy a home right now? With everything going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Economic uncertainty, what are home values going to do? I need a home, but God, should we rent instead of buying one right now, then potentially be underwater on a home that we buy? And they're all valid concerns and good questions. I mean, I had no idea at that point. So I was honest with him. I said, we met at the office. I said, hey, let's just talk through it and see if it makes sense or not. So we go through all the different things of, hey, what's your current situation in your job right now? How do you feel about that? Well, once we talked through that, felt pretty secure in his job, and even in a pandemic would probably be able to continue doing what he was doing. Okay. So we go through all these questions of different wants, needs, and then we look at the total market here in the Tri-City area. And what does that look like? And what are the risks? Could I sit there and be like, oh no, it's going to be good all the time? Don't worry about it, dude. If you buy a house, real estate can only go up, 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 and up. It wasn't that conversation at all. It was, hey, I really don't know. This is just what I'm seeing right now in the market. This is what has happened in the past in the market. How long are you planning on living in this home? Mm-hmm. He said, well, planning on living there for a long period of time, raising the family there. Okay. So ultimately, after weighing all options, looking at everything, he says, yeah, okay, let's go ahead and continue. Mm-hmm. And this was in 2020, and prices have continued to gone up and appreciate since then. And hindsight, that was a great move. Mm-hmm. And it's making decisions like that, or helping people make decisions like that, which will be the same in things going forward. Like, we're in the end of July. We're talking about this, looming recession numbers and different headlines we're seeing. And is the market going to crash? It's the same thing. We are going to have to help people just make educated decisions with what is happening in current times.
Yeah. No, I agree. I love that. I think it's more, I don't want to say, we got to talk people out of things more than we talk them into things. That's not really what I'm trying to say. What we are doing, though, is instilling the confidence that they are making the best decision for them.
Sure.
Because I get all the time, hey, I'm looking for a good deal. Well, okay, what does that look like to you? I've learned over time to ask them to define certain things, like define what a good deal is. And so one of my investors, again, like I talked them out of several properties, and we finally had settled on what's going to work best for them and their plan, right? So me being a planning guy, it's like, what's your goal? What's your plan? What do you want out of this property? How long do you want to have it? Do you want a short-term rental it? Do you want a long-term rental it? Do you want to occupy it for a little while you're hunting for other property? Do you want a house hack? Like, there's so many options, right, in investment. That's what I love about real estate. It's so creative, and it's awesome. I love it. But talking people into making the best decision for them ultimately is what I was trying to get at.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. So going back to the whole discouragement thing, if you had a piece of advice for somebody right now that was in a similar boat, they're however many months in, 4 months in, 6 months in, 7, 8 months in, and they haven't made a sale, or they've only made one sale or whatever, and they're going like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Is it worth it?
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody like that that's feeling down or questioning whether they should continue?
Yeah. So what I had experienced and what I would tell someone to do versus what I actually did, totally different. Like, I wouldn't recommend doing what I did. And what I did was kind of go back to my little cave and be a secret agent again and just kind of randomly do this and that and have this fear creep in of like there's no sales coming in, or I'm not helping enough people and I'm not hitting the goals that I've set. Like, there we can go into, we can have a whole podcast alone on just goals, goal setting, defining that, purpose, all these things. But somebody in that position where they're like, hey, Leo, I've been doing this for like 6 months. I haven't sold a house. What do I do? It's like, well, first of all, let's sit down and talk. Like, what's on your mind? Because maybe there's something that is looming inside of their mind that is more overpowering what it is that they could be doing in their real estate business.
Mm-hmm. Something holding them back or whatever.
And a lot of times it's us. Like, I was holding me back. My fear had crept in that was like, shoot, should I be doing this? I'm like 6 months into full-time real estate, which is now 12 months. So it was October of that year. And I'm like, crap, I didn't sell anything in July or in June. And I had sold like 4 or 5 houses. And I'm like, crap, I don't have anything now. What do I do? What do I do? What I would tell people now is to ask somebody that is either mentoring you or your broker or your boss or whoever, somebody, a superior, a leader, and ask them for help. Go, what do I do? Easy, Glenn. Let's just sit down and let's talk about, number one, what's going on right now in your life. Number two, let's see if it's maybe a skills issue or if it's a confidence issue, or whatever it is. For me, I boiled it down to it was a lack of confidence. I wasn't getting in front of enough people to just be proficient in my delivery of how I'm an expert in real estate. People would ask me all the time, and I'd stumble, I'd fumble, dude, it was terrible, right?
Yeah.
Bull in a china shop. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But building that confidence, going, okay, everything's fine. These people need my help. I can provide value to them by telling them what's going on in the market.
Yeah.
They just want to know what's going on in the market. You're not asking them for a kidney.
Right. Right.
Just help them.
Yep.
Truly help them. And that's what I genuinely wanted to do, was just help them.
Sure.
So skills is one. Confidence is another. That's usually, they go tandem, right? It's like the more your confidence increases, inevitably your skills are going to increase. So long as you're working on your skills.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think you have to keep looking towards the goal too.
100%.
So if you had a goal and you haven't quite met it yet, you have to continue fixed on that goal, or you won't get there. The reality is, a lot of people don't make a sale for 6 months.
Yeah.
A lot of people that are successful now, that are selling 20 to 30 homes a year or even more, their first year was a goose egg or a couple sales or whatever, and then once they got the ball rolling, made some mistakes along the way, picked up some new ideas, built some confidence after a few wins, were able to catapult that forward. I think you are a good example of that. We have other agents in this office that are a good example of that too, that are in a similar boat. Same thing. Did one with BJ a few weeks ago on here, and he had the similar circumstance. I want to say it was like half a year before he closed his first one.
Yeah, and he's doing great.
And he's doing great now. Yeah, and consistent year over year.
Yeah, yeah, and you killed it there with the goal portion, right? So let's just say someone out there, whether they're at our brokerage or a different brokerage, and they're like, gosh, I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. I've only sold X amount every year for the last 5 or 10 years, or I'm brand new and I haven't sold anything. And they just want to, how can I get that exponential growth that I'm looking for? Well, we have a ton of resources here, which I love about being here, which is what attracted me here, was that not only is there amazing culture here, there's an awesome support staff here. There's great leaders. Shout out Glenn Gosh. Shout out Travis Davis. There's a ton of good energy here. I'm a big energy guy, right? There's a lot of good energy here. And that's not even, I haven't even gotten into the resources. Yeah, those people are resources, but there's tools and resources here like, hey, this is how you can grow your sphere of influence. Hey, this is how you can develop a business plan. A lot of people don't have a business plan. Like I said earlier when I was just winging it, I had no idea. Mm-hmm. I just knew that I wanted this thing, and I had to figure that out, whatever that thing was. Like, I want to be a successful real estate agent. What are the successful real estate agents doing? Oh, okay. I'm reading books that they're reading. I'm reading books about successful real estate agents. I'm reading books on business. I'm reading books on economics and numbers and all these awesome, cool things that I now find interesting, which before I was like, I wouldn't touch that book. I hated reading, by the way, but now I read every day.
Yeah.
I love reading. I'm reading books on human behavior. I'm reading books on psychology. I'm reading books on sociology. I'm reading books on personality types. I'm reading books on so many different spectrums that are just fascinating now, where I'm like, that's why that client that was super upset at me, that never called me back, that's why they were pissed.
Sure. And I think that, I mean, there's two ways to go about work and business. Mm-hmm. One is just doing. Mm-hmm. Like, you are not going to get any results by not doing anything.
Right.
You have to do things. You have to do it consistently. And then two is sharpening your skills within those things that you are doing. So reading the books, taking the time to go to the trainings, taking the time to get yourself educated. Mm-hmm. It was Jim Rohn that said, life change starts with education, not motivation. Says you take an idiot and get them all riled up and motivated, then what do you have?
Motivated idiot.
A motivated idiot, right? Okay. Flipping that on its head, though, he would also go on to say that, well, what I lack in skill, I can make up for in numbers. So if, Leo, you've been in the business 2 years now, and it takes you have to make 10 phone calls to make a sale or whatever your average is, well, I can beat you even if I'm a fifth as good as you are. Mm-hmm. How do I do that? Well, I make 100 phone calls. Yeah. And then I got 2. I beat you.
Yeah.
You know, so there's that too. But along the way, you have to be sharpening your skills. So it's a balance. Sharpening your skills, but you can be sharpening your skills all day long if you're not doing things and not getting out there, not failing, not tripping on yourself, not having a few losses.
Failing forward.
You're never going to get to those wins.
I love that, Glenn, by the way. I'm so glad you brought up Jim Rohn, by the way. He was very influential in me getting into real estate and sticking with it. Like, I would just type in Jim Rohn on YouTube.
Yeah.
And just listen to his stuff. Like, it was so powerful.
It's all simple, too. There's nothing, it's not rocket science or any of this. It's just like simple things that you need to do each and every day.
Well, so you asked, like, hey, discouragement and this fear, like, what was going through your mind? What was that all like? You hadn't closed a sale. You got a young family. You're literally going to quit the one thing, stability-wise, that your family knew. What the hell's going on? Man, I would listen to Jim Rohn.
Yeah.
And one line that really stuck with me that I'll never forget, he says, life doesn't just happen. Life happens just.
Yep.
And that was a catalyst for me to go, okay, I need to figure out why it is that I'm not hitting the goals that I've set. I know that there's power in writing down goals, in vision, and actually visualizing where you're going to be, like mentally freaking being tough and disciplined. Like, I knew the importance of that. But after he says life happens just, I was like, I'm in the position I'm in because of the decisions that I've made.
Yeah.
I need to up my skills. I need to up my confidence. I need to up the level of thinking that I'm doing, because I'm down here in the dumps, if you will, like all fearful and kind of afraid of what's going to happen. Is the market going to tank? Is, are we going to be able to sell real estate within another year? Like, what are we doing?
And during those times, are you making phone calls to people consistently?
I wasn't.
Or reaching out to people consistently?
I wasn't.
Because of the confidence thing.
Because of the confidence,
Yeah.
because of the fear. What are they going to say to me? Hey, dude, I just bought my house a year ago. I'm not going to use you for who knows how long. Like, don't call me. That one person, that's just one person
Yep.
that's telling you, no, I'm not ready right now.
And it wasn't even like an F you or a, hey,
No.
don't call me. Hey, why are you trying to sell me something? It was just like, it's usually a no, thank you.
Yeah.
You know?
But that rejection was very difficult.
Sure.
From a person that didn't deal with rejection all that much. Well, I get rejected from my wife all the time, but shout out Chelsea. But anyway, you coming from the trades, you're not getting like rejection because you're not asking for a ton of stuff every single day.
Yeah.
Now I've developed the skills of reaching out to people regularly, just to reach out.
Yeah. And I think
Just reach out.
If somebody's not being successful, another thing Jim Rohn says is the numbers usually tell the story. Mm-hmm. So if you're supposed to make 50 calls this week, or even 10 calls this week, and you get to the end of the week and you can honestly give yourself a score of how many phone calls you made this week, or somebody asked you, hey, so, goal of 50 calls this week, how many did you make? And if you say, well, you go like, well's not a number. need to be able to put a number here for how many calls you actually made out to people. Mm-hmm. If you're going to start the sentence with, well, or hey, how many pages of this book did you read? We'd set a goal for you to get, through these chapters of this book, or this learning plan, or whatever. Well, no, well's not a number.
Yeah.
Just how many pages did you read every day?
It's powerful.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
So now, I'm not like a super big numbers guy as far as success goes. I think success can mean 100 different things. Success can mean an agent that's selling 300 homes a year. Success can mean an agent that's selling 20 homes a year. Success can be 10 homes a year if that's what you want and that's your goals and that's what you need to do for your family or for your life. But where are you right now approximately production-wise?
Yeah,
so units per year.
Units per year. I'm at 20 this year, and I want
That's year to date?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're halfway through the year, and I've sold 20. And my goal was 50. Now it's hefty, right? My first year, again, it was April until I sold my first house of 2020. And then I ended up selling 12 total that year. And I was super excited because there was one family that I was helping that we had to sell their home in order to purchase the next one. So that was 2 transactions. So that would have ended the year at 14. However, we had to bump closing out into January the next year.
Yep.
So I was like, darn, but I still hit the goal.
Hey, head start for next year, right?
Because that was great momentum into the following year. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
I went from, on average, because in numbers, we do the averages, right? So on average, I was closing 1 a month. But the reality, Glenn, was that I didn't close anything for the first 4 months.
Right.
I closed 1 deal on April 1st. And then I closed 2 deals in May, closed nothing for June and July, and then the remainder I had closed 1 or 2 the following months, where it had averaged 1 a month for 12 that year. Second year, which was last year, 2021, I'd closed 25 transactions. Mm-hmm. So I'd more than doubled from the first year, which I was super excited because, again, I had really good momentum. I was dialing in on my skills. I was calling people every single day, and I'm just like, man, I'm on this rampage, right?
I mean, I noticed that about you. I'll see you here at the office, and you just sit there and zero in and go.
Thank you.
And get some
my earbuds.
Your earbuds in.
Oh, which, by the way, I found my earbuds.
Oh, there you go,
ladies and gentlemen. We had a conversation at lunch today, Glenn and I. I can't find my AirPods. Where were they? I can't find them. Well, this camera right here was in the pouch of my bag, and there they are right next to them.
Oh, okay.
I never put them in there.
Yeah.
So I never thought to look in there. Like, why are they in there? I don't know, but they're in there.
But point being, I see you making the calls every day. I mean, you sit there at your stand-up desk, get the AirPods in, and just go and make the phone calls.
Yeah.
And it's it's got to be a daily ritual, right? Or
Yeah,
or
yeah.
couple days a week or something.
I
that you're
try
doing?
to do it as consistent as possible. Some days, don't get me wrong, life happens. My kids don't want to get out of bed, and
Yeah.
they don't want to go to daycare, and they're
Or they're
kicking
sick
and
or
screaming.
whatever. Yeah.
They're sick. I mean, they're little. They get sick, right? They don't have quite the immune system that you and I have, Glenn. But sometimes life happens. They just don't want to. They just don't want to do anything. Just like us adults. Have you ever had days, Glenn, where you're just like, I'm not going to work?
Sure, but then you got to kick yourself on the butt and get
Yeah.
back up and do it the next
And
day.
you do.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking a day off here and there, having a lazy day. But man, I mean that can catapult and be a downward spiral real quick if you let it.
You know what's interesting too, Glenn, that I've always found kind of fascinating was that like you put in all the hard work to get to where you need to be in terms of whatever it is. Maybe it's a fitness goal or a health goal or a mindset goal or a financial goal, whatever the goal is, and you work so hard and you get there and you're like, man, that was really awesome. But it took so long to get there, right? On a graph, right? Let's just, on a graph, you put 10 dashes and it takes you 10 to get to where your goal is. But you miss one of those things and it doesn't take you 10 marks to downward spiral out of control. Like
Right.
it'll take 1 or 2.
Right.
It depends on what the unit of measure is. But still, it just seems like, holy crap, I've been going to the gym every day consistently for X amount of days or months. I've been going to the gym for months. No, I have not been, by the way. But you're going to the gym for months, 6 months, and then you take a day off, and then you have a cheat meal, and then you are tired, and then you're sore, and then you haven't gone
Right.
for a week, where at first that habit kind of made you feel guilty internally, but your body has grown accustomed to doing that. And it's like, hey, dude, you don't feel right because we're missing something.
Yeah.
What's going on? You don't feel good. What's the matter? And then you take a week off. Dude, you've been going to the gym for 6 months. You take a week off and you're like, yeah, I don't want to go back.
That can derail you.
And you don't go back. And it's another 6 months or a year before you start hitting the gym again.
Yep.
So I've always found that fascinating where it's like you put in the work, it's super hard, and then you take it 1 week off and you're like, fuck it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up about fitness goals, whether it's weight loss or physique or some sort of performance thing or whatever. It's very similar to business, I think too.
I agree.
You can step off a ledge and be on a downward spiral in no time at all. I think in fitness, I used to work in a gym as a personal trainer. And people would get discouraged because they're working out hard. Maybe they've struggled with obesity in their life or whatever, and they're working out hard for 3 months and not quite seeing the results that they thought they would get by being fairly consistent with it. Same thing in business or real estate. Hey, I've been putting in the effort. I've been doing things for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. I haven't quite seen the fruits of my labor yet, or haven't quite reached my goals yet, and then they get discouraged and fall off. Or, when it comes to the weight loss thing, they get discouraged and they go like, what's the point? And just go back to the life that they've been living before. So I've seen people do that. Hey, I've tried this for 3 months and it didn't work out. Hey, I tried this for 6 months and it didn't work out. But when it comes to fitness goals, I've never heard anybody say, I've been working out consistently for 6 years and just nothing's happening for me.
That's true.
It's the same thing in real estate. I haven't heard anybody goes like, man, I've been making these 50 phone calls a week consistently for 6 years and just nothing's happened.
Yeah.
That's not the way it goes.
Right.
I mean, it might take you a few months to get one, and there might be some bad luck along the way. Like you were talking about with, hey, you get one under contract, you think you have a win, and it falls out due to inspection.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And that could be a point that it's real easy to get discouraged and just go, screw it, not showing up to work anymore, not going to the office, or maybe I'll find another job or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, you got to eat, you know what I mean? So if, you need income, that's cool. But if you're just going to quit altogether, again, I haven't seen anybody or heard of anybody that says, hey, I've been doing these things consistently year after year and I'm still failing in real estate.
Yeah. And this isn't a plug to do some recruitment, but I mean, there's a lot of people out there, Glenn, that are like, hey, I'll get messages on Instagram or on Facebook like, hey, what are you doing to do what you're doing? It's like, come, let's just go have a beer. Let's have some coffee. Let's just talk. Let me show you what I'm doing. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science to show up every day. Showing up is a big part of it. Just show up.
Right.
You show up. You see what other people are doing. Hey, all these people are on the phones. Gosh, what are they doing? Who are they talking to? Oh, I don't know. Well, go ask. Go ask them. Their door's open and they're on the phone and be like, hey, when you're done, can I? Yeah. And you'd be surprised, like I said, when you ask for help, how willing people are actually to help you.
Mm-hmm.
I love helping other people. And yeah, I get in the zone, I get focused. And honestly, now it's like I would get frustrated at first that people would like kind of throw me off my rhythm, or like being in the flow state. Because once you're in the flow state, it's like it's go time. Like it's very hard to get out of that or get back into it once you've been disrupted. But I almost feel like the reward is way cooler when I drop what I'm doing to go help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's me, right? There's people out there that don't enjoy helping others because maybe they don't feel like they have the knack to help, or maybe they don't feel worthy of who am I to teach them, or we as in general and people
preconceived notions.
We have these self-limiting beliefs.
Yeah, self-limiting beliefs
that we're like, who am I to teach that person that thing that they need, that I know how to do well? Who am I?
But who is anybody? You know what I mean?
I agree.
If you look at great coaches in sports, not all of them are the scoring champion or the 5-time MVP or whatever.
Yeah.
But they have a knowledge and an ability to be able to help people and be able to push them in the right direction.
Yeah.
So
Freddie Roach.
Yeah.
Great example.
There you go.
The guy was never a champion.
Yeah.
The guy got his ass beat.
Yeah. But knows enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he's trained some of the best world champions to date.
Yeah.
In modern boxing history, I'll say. Some of the greatest champions.
Sure. Phil Jackson.
Awesome.
NBA. I mean,
awesome.
Obviously played basketball in his career, but was not a Michael Jordan or was not a Kobe Bryant by any means.
But he did coach those guys.
Wherever he was able to coach, it turned to gold.
Yeah.
So,
there's a saying, those that can't do, teach. And those that can't teach, do. So I hope that it's like, I'm not, because again, I say I have this knack for teaching people that like there's just, you can see in people's facial expressions when something happens. They go, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
So I see that a lot when I just explain to people what it is, whatever it is, especially clients. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. Or, oh, that's why we do this.
Sure. It's not a being superior thing or anything like that either. It's just like, hey, maybe I can help you along with this from some of my experiences or other things I've seen that other people have done.
Yeah.
And storytelling and just seeing how that can relate to their life to help them. So you mentioned sharpening skills a little while ago here. What are some of the books you've read lately where you just said, man, there's something I took from that book or that podcast or that audiobook?
Yeah, there's a lot of books that I read in terms of, there's sales books, there's psychology books, there's persuasion books, not manipulation books, but persuasion, there's influence. There's a lot of good content out there. One of the books that I'd recently read, it was actually a couple years ago that I read it, but it was called Never Split the Difference.
Yeah.
And they talk about the F-bomb in that book. And and they talk a lot about it, about being fair. They're like, hey, at some point during this conversation that you feel that I haven't been treating you fairly, that's not my intent. Please let me know how we can make this right so it's all fair. Mm-hmm. Like, once I heard that concept, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
No one thinks they're treating anyone unfairly or unreasonably. No one thinks that they're ever the unreasonable person, and you're not really manipulating somebody to get into, oh, I'm being an asshole, I need to be reasonable. No, like, they're going, well, yeah, I mean, it's not unreasonable to have this conversation, or it's not unreasonable to feel the way you feel, or, yeah, I hear you, I feel you.
Right. It's just giving somebody else a different perspective and allowing them to see it a different way.
Yeah. But Glenn, I mean, we can sit here for hours talking about books, man. Another great book, Brian Tracy. I'm a huge fan of Brian Tracy. He has this book called The Psychology of Selling. And it is a phenomenal book because he has in there basically some scripts that he had used, and he put FAIR in there. Now, he wrote this book way before Chris Voss wrote his.
Sure. I mean, this is probably from the 70s or early 80s, maybe.
Yeah. So Brian Tracy is he's like a sales consultant, sales coach, and
motivational speaker. Yeah.
Again, he's one of the guys that I listen to regularly because he's just got such a soothing, good. He's just genuinely nice voice.
Sounds like you're talking to.
Dude, it sounds
your
like you're
dad
talking
or grandpa or something.
Yeah, your best friend, his dad. He's an entrepreneur. He's a small business owner, and he's always home. He's that guy that was always there at the house, and he's like, "Listen, guys, this is what you need to do." And, he's one of those guys. He's like the neighborhood dad. That's what I love about Brian Tracy. But he's extremely wise because he breaks down some of the most what we would consider complex things like self-limiting beliefs, fear, doubt, confidence. A lot of these things. Law of attraction, the law of vibration, frequencies, all of these things that you're going, well, how is this going to help me sell a house? Or how is this going to help me sell cars or insurance or door-to-door or pest or whatever, security? Well, there's a lot more to it than...
Yeah. I've read a couple of his books and listened to them on audio too. Same reason. I just think it's just so... There's not a lot of fluff. It's like, hey, here's things that actually work. And this isn't a direct quote, but I remember one of the first books or maybe audiobooks by him that I listened to or read. One of the things he said is, hey, sales is not manipulating or tricking people into buy something. Sales is getting people to where they want to be.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of a paraphrase or whatever.
Yeah.
But when I read that or heard that for the first time, it was kind of like a, sigh of relief because I'm getting into these sales jobs. I started listening to his books when I got into the fitness thing because I was having to sell my personal training services.
To Sell is Human, another great book.
Yeah, and I said, well, okay, if I'm going to be successful in this, I can have all the best workout plans. If I'm not able to sell people on working with me, then I'm not going to be making any money doing that. So that's how I got into reading his stuff, and a lot of that applies to real estate too. Real estate's a little bit different because we're not selling like a product or a service that, is kind of disposable income thing. It's more of a need that people have. But a lot of the principles apply in having that philosophy of we're not tricking anybody or just trying to make a sale. It's getting people to where they want to be.
Yeah. And so I read something in another book that had said if taking things by physical force is wrong, then taking things by mental force is also wrong. So, which hammered it in to me, which was like, hey, what we do, we're not manipulating people into buying any house. That's not why we're here.
Right.
And so, that always stuck with me. It's like, look, if something is wrong physically to them, like you're physically forcing them into a sale, like, come here, take their hand, and sign a contract with your hand and theirs. Doing it by mental force is the same, considering the same, in my opinion, and I agree with that.
Yeah. Yep.
But to wrap up the book section, like other books, oh my gosh, there's just so many books. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was a really great book about paradigms, having a paradigm shift that is like, okay, I see things a little differently, helping me have an open mind or continue to have an open mind, and then creating like a mission statement. That was really important. In that one, it kind of helped me create this mission statement for my business, and I never really got around to it. My wife and I have tons and tons of things that we're doing right now, so it's a little difficult to be like, hey, honey, let's throw another thing in here. Like, let's write this mission statement for our family. So, I mean, there's so many resources and tools and just awesome books like that one to get you going. But
so what does your day look like for getting the reading in or getting the audiobook in or whatever? How are you doing that consistently?
I don't want to morph it into, hey, what's your schedule look like? But I wake up in the morning at 5:15 and then I'm usually out of bed by like 5:20, 5:25. Because I'm just doing some gratitude. I pray a lot. So I'm like, okay, thank you for X. Thank you for Y. Thank you for Z. And obviously a lot of the times in the morning, it's like, Lord, thank you for giving me this comfortable bed. Mm-hmm. Even though my kids found their way into it in the middle of the night,
Yep.
I still got some sleep.
Yep.
Very grateful for that. Hey, I'm grateful that these kids have a nice big bed to jump into with mom and dad. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful for these gifts that you gave me, which my children, they are gifts, in my opinion. I'm like, yeah, thank you, right? So I'm grateful in the morning. It's an awesome way to start your day. I roll out of bed. I'm out the house by 5:30, and I'm on my walk. And I go and walk for about an hour. And average person will walk anywhere from 2.5 to 3 miles an hour. So I'm right around there, the 3 miles a day. So I'm walking for 3 miles. And on that walk, I'm listening to the Bible. So that's about half an hour, right? And there's a devotional. We get into some Psalms. So we get into some Psalms, and we do some New Testament, some Old Testament.
Okay.
And get back home, and then I'm doing mindset stuff, right? Because obviously that's only half of the walk. I'm doing mindset stuff. So I'll listen to some Jim Rohn. I'll listen to some Bob Proctor, rest his soul. He just passed away a little while ago. I've never seen, which is funny. A lot of people go, Bob Proctor, oh yeah, The Secret. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, there's this movie out there called The Secret and Law of Attraction and things like that. But I've been following him. Aside from that, I still haven't seen The Secret. I should probably watch it, but I heard it's good. I've heard good things.
Yeah.
So I'll listen to guys like that, Earl Nightingale, Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much good. There's a lot of good people out there. Brian Tracy.
Yeah, I find myself repeating those too.
Yeah.
And every now and then I'll pick up an audiobook or a book that just doesn't quite set with me right for whatever reason. I just can't get into it. I'll usually ditch it. Like if I'm into it an hour on an audiobook, I just go, this one's not really speaking to me.
Yeah.
I'll go back to one of the ones that I know really spoke to me before and rehash that one.
Yeah.
But I do a similar. I like to do them on walks. Sometimes even just doing the dishes.
Yeah.
If
good for you. Jeez.
Well, I mean, if whatever,
Yeah.
if sink's full of dishes and I got to do them real quick.
Yeah.
Dude, just pop in some pods and do it while I'm doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
what else are you going to do while you're doing that?
Yeah.
So little things like that. I think some people struggle with that, like getting in the habit of, because if you come from a different walk of life, a different job where you didn't really have to polish your skills every single day, get in a mindset every single day. I know, like when I worked in construction, I don't think I read a book my entire construction career.
Yeah.
No joke. Like I can't think that I even read a book. Maybe, aside from studying for some OSHA course or safety certification or whatever. Like,
what's going to keep my job? Oh, I got to read up on that.
Yeah. But again, once I got into sales, I had to get into the habit of doing it. And it is a little bit tough when you've never done it before. And then you have to jump in and be, I guess you don't need to, but if you want to be successful, that's what many of us do.
Right.
So I think, like pairing it with something is probably a good idea, whether it's, while you're on a walk or while even if you're going to bed at night, it's better than nothing. Just sitting in bed, pop in some headphones and
something
try
that's
to
not
get 15
gonna,
minutes in or whatever.
Not going to take a ton of concentration. Your mind, it knows how to automatically wash the dishes.
Right.
You know how to do that.
You don't have to carve out an extra part of your day.
Or driving.
Right.
That's another huge one.
Yeah.
Or walking or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Something that doesn't need your full attention, you can pop something in and listen to an audio.
You can still absorb it.
You could still definitely absorb it. Your mind is quite the tool, by the way, if you're listening out there. It can do so much. It can take stuff in. It's always taking stuff in. So I do the audio stuff, but I like to physically read just because it helps with progress. Mm-hmm. You put the bookmark in, you read however long you read. I read for an hour, so I'm reading at least a chapter, which is anywhere from 20 to 30 pages. Put the thing in, and I put my book down. The next day I come back, and I'm like, oh, look, my margin has grown bigger and bigger and bigger. Yep. So the progress of that's super cool. It's kind of like conquering something, little mini victory. But I will, for context, Glenn, mention that I didn't just quit my job and start reading every single day for an hour, and,
right,
and doing this routine. Like that took some time. So when I was working the graveyard shift, I was extremely bored. I had to do stuff. I mean, some guys they would just go find a spot to hide, and somebody had to do the work, and I was a young guy out there, so I was like, all right, whatever, I'll go and do it. So when there was some downtime, I would pick up a book and I'd just read.
Yeah.
And so I started the habit then, and I wouldn't read every day. I'd read a few pages. Work would get in the way, put the book down. I would try to find things that interested me, and that's how I got into the habit of reading.
Nice.
I developed the habit of being interested in business, being interested in sales, being interested in psychology and human behavior, which took a while. Like, if I was still working at my old job and I picked up this book about personality types, like this awesome book that I picked up here recently is called Surrounded by Idiots, and it's about the 4 major personality types. If I were to read that book 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I'd have threw in a freaking bonfire. Like, this is stupid. Who would ever read this? And now I read it, I'm like, this is gold.
Right.
This is gold. I had no idea that my wife behaved this way because that's her personality type. I need to communicate this way to her. How many clients, Glenn, have you like, oh, well, hey, it didn't work out, and you guys split ways, and you guys shook hands as friends and did your own thing, and you're like, oh my gosh, had I known that they needed to be communicated in this way, what would the outcome have been then?
Sure.
Right? It happens all the time. So once I was like consciously aware that, oh my gosh, we're all the same, but we're all wired differently, essentially. And I say we're all the same because I believe in equality, but hey, people need to be heard this way. People need to be spoken to this way. People need to be touched, or people need to be not touched. There's a lot of people, they don't want touched. They'll let you know that if you're listening.
Yeah.
Body language, visual language, and hearing, you'll pick that up. So anyway.
Yeah, you never know what somebody had in their, past things in their life, or crappy thing that happened to them today or this week or whatever they're going through in their life. So always try to give people the benefit of the doubt and know that you don't fully understand where they're coming from. Yeah. But being an effective communicator and being in tune obviously helps a lot.
Yeah.
So cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on here. This was awesome.
Yeah, there's some, thanks for having me.
Nuggets hopefully people can take away from it. We'll have to do this again sometime soon.
I agree. Yeah, sorry, we went all over the place. But if you guys are wanting to learn more about real estate and how you can grow your business and how not to give up, I'm available. Let me know.
Nice.
509-596-2592. Leo Garcia, real estate expert, call banker.
Dude, you're going to blow up. There's couples of people to listen to this podcast.
Oh my gosh. I don't know, man. I don't know if I can handle being famous.
All right, man. Thanks again, Leo.
Thank you.